Our next panelist is Juxi Leitner. How'd I do? Is that good? Yeah. Juxi, please take the floor, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Let's see if I can get the slides up.
And a very good morning to you.
Thank you.
That it's maybe not even 4 a.m. where you are, so
it's
thank you very much.
right now. So it's almost sun up here. So yeah, good morning here from Brisbane. I'm Juxi Leitner. Can you actually see my slides as well?
Yes.
Yeah, all good. Cool. So I'm co-founder and managing director of LYRO. Before I started LYRO, I was actually academic and lead of the manipulation and grasping research at the Australian Centre for Robotic Vision. I have a few slides about what we do at LYRO right now, but I also have some slides towards the end, what are sort of open questions that I believe are interesting to the industry as much as it is interesting for academic research. So at LYRO, we're looking at solving some of the big challenges that are coming up in the 21st century. And particularly, you're building smart robotic systems that really help us to establish a robust, safe, and secure supply chain. And that has been brought up a few times before. I guess there's sort of three major issues, and one has to deal with fluctuation. The other one has to deal with like global supply chains and how to secure them. And thirdly, how do we deal with traceability that also involves food safety, but also has abilities, across other supply chains that are not just the food supply chain. And we can help with all of that. So we're building robotic systems, specifically right now focused on smart picking and packing solutions that can be applied across a multitude of supply chains. And we're doing this with something that we call LYRO machine intelligence. And that's also been mentioned multiple times before. A tight integration of machine learning, computer vision, and robotics is actually crucial to what we can actually do right now, to what we could do like 10 years ago in robotics. And that really is the breakthrough that allows us to perform smart picking and packing operations. For us, LYRO machine intelligence is sort of our core tech stack, but it's not just working on our robots. We build our own robot hardware as well, but it actually works across the discipline of lots of different robot arms. So you can see some of them there on the bottom as well. LYRO really tries to get every robot out there to become a smart robotic system that can pick and pack. And this is technology that we've developed over the last decade or so here at the Center for Robotic Vision. And it's actually a technology that also allowed us to win the Amazon Robotics Challenge, where we actually had a very cheap, cost-effective robot, but still outcompeted very, very large corporations. And it really shows the capability of what we can do. Specifically, what we're really interested in is not just building a robotic system that works, but a robotic system that actually can scale up and work in lots of different scenarios. Our interesting first market is fruit picking and packing, and you can see mangoes being packed down there. We've deployed robotic systems that actually pack mangoes, avocados. I don't have video of those right now. They are still under embargo from the government that has funded our current video production. So they should be coming out. Ideally, it was planned to come out mid-August, but it probably is a bit slow because of government having other issues at this point. But really the key point to take away here is that these robotic systems are not built to be an agricultural robotic systems or specifically a mango packing system. It's a general purpose picking and packing solution. And you can see on the bottom, we actually have applied that to lots of different scenarios where we have e-commerce settings and different grippers. And that's really the exciting thing for us. Like, how can we scale this thing up from a $200 million market where what's been spent on fruit picking and packing here or just fruit packing here in Australia, all the way to an e-commerce market, which is really, really very large. I think one thing that I want to discuss maybe a bit more also later is robots as a service, and it's been coming up a few times. And for me, I think, yes, it's a very interesting model, and it's been mentioned in the early panels as well. It's not just a new paradigm. It's actually a pretty old paradigm for certain cases. It is basically that your pay-per operation is usually B2B kind of services models that we're talking about, but what really makes it viable? And I think that's something that people tend to ignore. First of all, you need a market that actually understands that there's a service model and that they're used to a servicing model, which in the food sector is actually pretty much a given, but in other sectors is more of a struggle. Secondly, you think you need a solution that is flexible enough, both on the hardware and the software side of things, that it can be reused in lots of scenarios and cases, which also is something that from an academic point of view, we really like, but also from a business point of view, it's something that sometimes people struggle with. And thirdly, I think you need also a hardware solution that is cost effective, because in the end, you want multiple robots. if you're providing a service, you might need spare robots, or at least a good enough distribution system or manufacturing pipeline that actually allows you to have these robots out there, as well as easy to deploy robotic systems. This is our robot on an avocado packing shed here in Queensland just a week ago. And it took us less than 45 minutes from parking the van to starting packing avocados off the line. And this is really sort of the flexibility and the deployment that we really would like to see. So what are the open challenges? We have robots out there. I've briefly mentioned it before. I think the big challenge is not so much getting a robotic system to do something, but actually scaling robotic systems to do a lot of things. And I've split it sort of, the first half is a bit more academic questions, and I think broader research questions that are of interest. And the first one actually is about touch sensing in materials. And I think the previous presentation of Festo also showed that there's a lot of capabilities that are being developed right now there, but there's still a lot of questions of how to integrate touch with, for example, vision, and how to integrate smart materials to actually make these systems scalable. The second one is a bit more of an AI question about like reasoning, and it also was brought up in the previous presentation about DevOps, but also in a very early panel about how do you define your failure modes and how do you know when your system is working and when it's not working. And I think that still requires some academic research. And I think the whole area of dexterous manipulation, something that is a large scale manipulation problem, is still something that is providing a very fruitful avenue for academic research. From an industry point of view, DevOps is definitely a key critical part of getting robots out there. And Florian's presentation definitely hit the nail for me there. That's really a critical aspect of getting robots out there. There's lots of companies that build a one-off robot that does something, but like how to scale them up is going to be crucial. And that ties in with the second point as well. Like, how do I retrofit existing operations? How do I integrate with other systems? That's clearly another hurdle that we need to overcome to have these robots out there. And I want to also mention, I'm focusing on manipulation, so I'm not a mobility person, but I've seen a lot of paddocks out there in the field where I'm really going to see a lot of robotic systems currently struggling to drive up and down. So the avocados are growing on a hill. If it's muddy, I'm really wondering how much we still need to work on getting these things reliably out there. And I understand it's not the first immediate problem, but it's definitely a problem that's still out there. Anyway, I'm happy to discuss this further. If you have any questions, also feel free to send me an email at the email down there. Thanks.
Thanks, Juxi. That's a great presentation. In the interest of time, I'm going to hand the floor over to Andrew, and then so we can try and get through as much as we can. But it's a really, really thoughtful presentation, and I think there's some great action items for the community to focus on.